Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 5 of the Matt Lab podcast. Thank you so much for listening wherever you are tuning in. And this is without question a conversation I've been looking forward to for a long time now. I'm finally glad to sit down with this man across the screen from me today. I am joined by Liam Crowley, a reporter, staff writer, host, interviewer, versatile multimedia talent, or what he might call himself, the content machine of ComicBook.com, the leading website in pop culture, comics, movies, TV, anime, gaming, whatever nerdy entertainment that you want to take in, you can head to comicbook.com. But let me introduce my guest properly, a guest that needs no introduction, but it's my obligation as the host of the show. Liam Crowley not only predicted his future in attending the Percy Jackson TV show red carpet premiere, he has since led press junkets across media, whether it's Asteroid City, Fly Me to the Moon, Arthur the King, and many more. This young man has interviewed countless celebrities across the industry from some of the world's top movies and TV shows. He has been honing in on his presentation, interviewing, and writing skills since his time at Syracuse for The Orange. And when he's not focused on the movie scene, he's taking his talents to the gym, running half marathons, or probably rereading the Percy Jackson series. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Liam Crowley to the show.
Oh my God, Matthew, your check is in the mail. What an introduction. Good God. I feel so important.
You are important. Anyone that comes on my show is the most important person for the hour.
Bro, this guy's got me blushing right now for real. No, that was great. And it's wild too just to hear some of the stuff said out loud because this industry moves very quickly, so it's easy to
Mhm.
forget things in the past. But yeah, I guess I have been busy over the past couple of years.
I mean, you were telling me before we even started recording that I think you do a good job of recognizing how far you come. I mean, you got that comic book thing behind you. It's got all those memories of what you've done so far, which I think is amazing. But my first question, Liam, I mean, you kind of just mentioned it. It's been busy. How are you? How are things going in 2024 so far?
I'm good, man. I'm excited. The big thing right now for me is I'm in the process of moving to New York City, which is an appropriate next step for my career because work just takes me to New York a lot. So it
Hmm.
makes sense to settle down there and have a home base there to do even more than what I already do. I know it sounds like a lot based on your introduction, but a lot of those opportunities were scattered over the course of 2 years.
Hmm.
And I'd love to just be able to make a lot of what you just said a weekly occurrence, a bi-weekly occurrence, a monthly occurrence, if you will. So yeah, life is busy right now, professionally, personally. In the gym, like you mentioned, I'm always trying to make sure every like little variable in my life is dialed up to an 11, but all by design because it keeps me as alert and as productive as I want to be.
And I've mentioned it a couple times. You work for comicbook.com, and I'm a big fan. But for those listening who might not know, what is comicbook.com and what exactly do you do with them?
Yeah, so comic book is much more than just what our brand's title suggests.
Hmm.
Comic book evolved from just covering just that comic books to covering comic book movies to eventually the example I give people all the time is like for way back when Robert Downey Jr. was starring in The Judge during his time that was around the same time of Avengers movies coming out. It's like, oh well, this comic book website, you'd probably want to ask him a couple questions about Iron Man, but if you could also ask him questions about the judge, that way we can, kind of give love to both things that are going on. And that just continues to spiral with how many of these actors tend to cross over into different projects. So like the Chris Hemsworths of the world doing stuff like Men in Black, the Chris Evans of the world doing stuff like The Gray Man. It just makes sense for a comic book website to just kind of cover everything outside of just comic book movies, pop culture, as you said,
Hmm.
as a whole. So what comic book covers, my corner is so specific, so sometimes I butcher exactly the scope. Just about everything that entertainment touches, we will cover, with the exception of music. So anime, television shows, movies, documentaries, professional wrestling. Yeah, and within those categories I just gave you, there are dozens of other categories. There are different genres of TV. There's streaming shows, there's cable shows. There's movies that go straight to streaming services. There's movies that go into theaters. There's movies that are on video on demand. So there's so much. And for me personally, what I do is just about anything that I find value in the sense of like, I rarely turn down projects. I did interviews for Hitmonkey recently just because I thought the trailer looked good. And it came across my desk and I was like, well, yeah, might as well just, I have never heard of this property. I didn't catch season one, but let me catch up and have some fun conversations with the people who helped make it. And yeah, it's hard to lock in on one thing because, like you mentioned in that very kind introduction, there's so much that's also that is always going on. Wrestling tends to be my most consistent thing, just because that is a very scheduled piece of entertainment. There's new product just about every day of the week. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. It's a broad question.
No, 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 I know it is. And I know like with a media company, you touch on so many different things. Like you're traveling for press junkets, you're interviewing through a computer, you're writing breaking articles, whatever, breaking news articles. That kind of leads into my main question. Like this is not a 9 to 5 job. I mean, these type of things, breaking news, social media postings, like it's 24/7. I mean, think about when are you taking it in? You're taking it in when you're scrolling in bed at night or when you wake up early in the morning. You know, someone's behind the screen doing all that work. So if you could just let me peek behind the curtain a little bit, how do you manage and like schedule your time doing a job like that?
Yeah, so I do have like my set hours every day, so to
Hmm.
speak. But like you mentioned, it's hard to turn your brain off, especially in the day and age where so much stuff can be accomplished remotely. There is always a little bit of like self pressure. If I see something happen that I want to do something with, and it's like past my bedtime, I will think for a second and be like, well, I could do something here. But oftentimes I will just like kind of step back and be like, no, I need to make sure work and my personal life are kept separate. But yeah, the biggest thing that exists outside of my set hours every day is the preparation that goes into the interviews. Because what a
Hmm.
lot of people don't see is like, especially for television interviews, there is a huge binge that needs to happen at some point outside of work hours. So outside of 8 hours in a day and the 8 hours that you're sleeping, you have 8 hours of like your personal life. And at some point during those 8 hours, sometimes you got to cram like 10 episodes in to prep for a junket that could be in a week or it could be the very next day because things tend to be kind of last minute in this industry. And also that also factors in with travel. You know, you don't travel during work hours, so even though travel can be fun, uh, it does kind of sometimes feel like an extension of the workday. And the other thing too is prepping the questions for the interviews. A lot of times I find myself doing that outside of my like scheduled hours in the day. And so yeah, it's all about budgeting your time. It's something everyone always talks about is like, you know, if you're a good time manager, you'll be able to succeed in any field, but especially in the entertainment industry, because those that excel and get to a higher level in this game are those that operate outside of like the so-called rules of a job. Like if you
Hmm.
just do what is told of you, you're probably just going to do what is told of you. But if you do more than what is told of you, eventually, you know, if people above you recognize that what is told of you becomes what you actually want to do.
Right. I love that end part. The way you were describing that reminds me of an interview I was listening to with James Gunn. He was talking about how he was reading a comic book and someone asked him, he's like, well, obviously James Gunn, very busy man right now. They're shooting Superman. He's got a lot of DC on his plate. And someone asked him, well, is this for work or is this for pleasure? And he was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know the difference. You know, he kind of lives one of those lives where it's all just blended into one. And I can imagine working in the entertainment industry like you are, like you're not a director, but still being a part of that. I imagine that's at some in some ways it can kind of you can kind of have the same feelings.
Oh, absolutely. The hardest thing for me is to find time to consume entertainment that is purely for entertainment
Mm,
because so often you associate sitting down watching a movie or sitting down and watching TV or like even pro wrestling a little bit. Pro wrestling is like the one thing I cover that I have maintained the ability to cover it for work and also watch it for fun. I don't know
right.
why. It's such a unique form of entertainment. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's hard to not think of the industry when you're consuming entertainment because everything goes into one another. Like you could be what I'm trying to think of an example of this recently, but I guess not from my career, but someone I admire greatly. He's a reporter in DC by the name of Kevin McCarthy. Anyone who's a fan of film
Oh
and
yes, I've
who's
seen
interviewed folks,
amazing interviewer. Yeah.
he's incredible. And like he is someone where I remember he asked Chris Evans a question. I forget what movie it was in promotion of, but
I think I know what this is.
the director question.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So for those who are listening who are unfamiliar, basically he was like asking Chris Evans how did his approach to the film that he was promoting change after he had made his directorial debut. He had like directed a film or an episode of TV for the first time. And I guarantee when Kevin was watching whatever Chris directed, he wasn't in that moment anticipating framing a question about it to Chris Evans in the future.
Mm.
But looking back, he remembered it enough to then work its way into a question in the future. So with that in mind, like it is very hard to watch anything and not think this will impact my job at some point in the future. I don't know how, I don't know why, but there will be some way I can connect it. And so that the way James Gunn put it is perfect. Is this for work or for pleasure? I don't know. That's because it's the truth.
Hmm. Yeah, that clip is so funny. He's like, "That's a great question." Like he
Yeah.
freaks out because everyone just asks him like, "What's his push, pull, and leg routine when he's trying to become Steve Rogers?" But no, again, that answer does a good job of leading into another question I have where with your job, you get to go to early screenings, go to press junkets, you get to go to premieres, see a lot of things before the general population or myself can see them. How has adding like the movie review and TV reviews to your workload affected the way that you watch movies like at all?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I will peel back the curtain a little bit for this answer. Um, we have like an unwritten rule. I don't want to say it's comic book specific. I think this is like across the entertainment industry. If you're gonna do the interviews for a movie, you don't do the review because it's a conflict of interest.
That makes sense.
If you say these gushing things about a movie right after you talk to its stars, that's not a great look. And on the flip side, if you say these disparaging things about the movie right after talking with the top stars, the PR people are gonna be like, "What the hell?" You know?
Yeah, that makes a
So
lot of sense.
yeah, so you tend to keep the two separate. But I mean, I'm a human being, so of course I
Hmm.
watch movies with a critical eye, and I think about ways to enjoy it, X, Y, and Z. There are examples though of like when the red carpet is rolled out, man, it is hard to have a bad time. I will say
Mm.
that very transparently. I was at the Transformers Rise of the Beasts premiere last June, and I've only seen that movie once. But the context in which I saw it, I had spoken to Anthony Ramos, Ron Perlman, so the entire cast right before at a outdoor premiere, my only outdoor premiere to date in Brooklyn. And then we go into this theater and it's this giant, like beautiful, like paintings on the ceiling and architecture and everything. And you're seeing it with the biggest crowd I've ever seen a movie with 1,000+ people, giant screen introduced by the director and the star. How on earth am I gonna
Yeah.
proceed to watch that movie and be like, or like that CGI was a little spotty? No, I had a great time, and I am totally cool saying my opinion was probably compromised.
Hmm.
But like that being said, like that's just the nature of the beast, nature of the rise of the beast, so to speak.
Oh my goodness.
In the sense of like there are times where you're gonna see a movie and it's gonna be in a setting that is privy to enjoyment, and
Hmm.
in those contexts you just don't officially review the film probably because the review process should always be through a press screening situation of like press screenings are pretty basic. They're in a standard movie theater and it is just like 1/8 capacity because you're only in there with critics and no one is cheering. The only time anyone emotes during press screenings are during horror movies when people are uncontrollably screaming. Me, It happened with me at Long Legs recently.
I was just gonna ask, was it long legs?
Yeah, bro, I could not. I was like, oh, I was freaking out.
I'm not a horror guy. I'm thinking about it, but I don't know. I don't
You
know.
will have a memorable experience. I can't guarantee you'll have a good time because I'm not one of those people that enjoys getting scared. So,
Yeah, no, same.
but the long-winded way to answer your question is that yeah, it does affect how you watch movies because the setting is just like there are settings where you are being put in a position to enjoy a film, and there are settings that are completely neutral. The only times you're put in a position to not enjoy a film is like if you get a screener link and you can only watch it on a laptop, on a plane, on a train, or something like.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it all depends on the setting.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I feel like the two pillars of like entertainment, right? Like music and movies. Music, whenever you're experiencing it, like live in a concert, it's always a great time. Like all concerts are always amazing, but like there's so many different ways to watch a movie, like you said. Like you could just be like alone in your room, that can affect your experience. You could be with people, that can make it better. I personally like have to have the best theater with the seats that I like to take in the movies that I like Deadpool and Wolverine next week. I bought those tickets like a month ago because I was like, if I don't have the showtime I want with the seats that I want, it's not going to register. I'm not going to have that emotional impact. And I feel like movies in that sense, like the surroundings with it and like the aesthetics of it can help elevate the picture so much more.
Oh, absolutely. That it is crucial, especially if you're buying tickets for like a standard movie theater, to be in a recliner, to be in
Hmm.
a situation where you can see the screen well, especially if you're picking your own seats. I'll never forget when I saw Infinity War for the first time, made the mistake of letting my friend buy the tickets, and that man got front row, bro.
Oh,
I was like, I still enjoyed the movie, but like my first experience with Infinity War would have been a lot different if I had better seats. And so that's why I made sure I was like, I'm buying the Endgame tickets. And
oh yeah.
that was the greatest theater experience of my life.
If you want to do something right, you got to do it yourself.
Exactly.
Endgame and No Way Home for me are the top. I mean, like how could it not? I remember I brought my Spider-Man mask to No Way Home. Like that's insane. That was just for a joke, but like it's all about the experience. You're 100% right. Like it elevates it so much more.
I wore
Um,
my Top Gun jumpsuit, Top Gun Maverick. There is no shame.
no shame. No shame. Like we're movie guys, you know? It's like Costco guys. No, but
You
uh
bring the boom.
oh, those guys are the best. Different question. How important have you found it to like take the time, and you touched on this a little bit, but how important have you found it to take the time to really study the person you're interviewing and to bring them like a unique experience to the press junket? Because what a lot of people don't know is like these casts are sitting there all day and it's just interviewers, and you don't want to be boring, you want to stand out. Like have you found ways to distinct yourself in that space?
Oh, big time, especially in
Mm,
person. You want to make the best impression in person as possible. That is something I hold high. I don't know if everyone. I can't say that that is going to be the case forever because I'm 2 years into this industry as a
mhm.
on a professional level. I have friends who are 10, 15 years into the industry that after a while it becomes a bit of like a rhythm. And so I put a lot of effort into my questions, especially for in-person interviews. I make I make sure probably at minimum 2 hours of like research and brainstorm, and that's not including watching the movie or the TV show that we're talking about at that time. For virtual interviews, it's a little different because it's very hard to grasp someone virtually because the conversation is always going to be talking to your computer screen with another
Mhm.
person on the other end, as opposed to like literally locking eyes with someone and making that connection. So yeah, the virtual interviews it's very hard to stick out besides just asking a good question. For in-person interviews, I love my props. I love to do things that will quite literally like be different than just asking a question. So a couple I'll run through was at Asteroid City, which was my first in-person junket. I wanted to ask Scarlett Johansson a Marvel question, but I didn't want to be that guy that was like, let's pivot away from this like artsy film that you're really proud of to talk about something that is completely in your past and you're not doing anymore.
Mhm.
So my real life connection was the first press screening I ever attended, and this is a legitimate truth, was Black Widow in summer of 2021. It was the first time they did an in-person press screening after COVID, and pre-COVID, I did not have that kind of access. And I drove 4 hours to New York City and back in the same day with one of my best friends. One of my best friends who got me the job at the Direct, which is where I was at the time. He
Right.
like sent me the job application. He found it on Twitter. He's like, "You might be interested in this," and I'm like, "I'm never gonna forget that." And you are my plus one for the foreseeable future. And so, in order to segue into that Marvel question, I brought the little at press screenings you get like a printed out thing that just kind of describes like the movie logo, and then it'll be like this invite is non-transferable, social embargo, review embargo. Here's when you can post your content. And so I always keep those because I think it's just like a neat little keepsake. And I brought it with me, and I was like, Scarlett, the first movie I ever attended a press screening for was Black Widow, and I showed her the thing. I was like, I still have the embargo disclaimer and everything. And that was a perfect segue into like the Marvel question, and it made her like
Hmm.
smile, and it eased any kind of tension that would happen by
Right.
pivoting something like that. Recently, it's such a name drop to say Scarlett Johansson. I interviewed Scarlett Johansson again for Fly Me to the Moon, and she was paired with Channing Tatum. And I wanted to ask Channing Tatum about the 21 Jump Street franchise. And this is actually inspired by Kevin McCarthy, who always brings ticket stubs to his press junkets. And so I am by no means claiming this. This is me taking his bit as inspiration. And I've talked with him about it, and I
Kevin, if you
hope,
ever see this,
yeah,
not that
Kevin,
he
if you
ever
ever
would,
see
but
this, it's all love. But I wanted to ask that, and I still had my ticket stub from when I saw 22 Jump Street back in 2014. So I handed him that. It opened him up. He gave a great quote. That ended up being the most successful interview quote of my career so far. It spanned like literally every publication. And then at the very end of that interview, I knew he wasn't going to talk about Gambit. So to
hmm.
still get like a moment out of it, I was like, just in case you need this in July, and I handed him an ace of spades, and he popped for that, and he was like flipping it around and all that. And by the time this podcast goes out, that'll probably be on my social. I've just been saving it for as close to Deadpool and Wolverine as possible. I don't know if he's in it. Let me clarify that. I do not know, but
What do
I
you
have a
know?
hunch, and I want to save it for as close to before the movie comes out as possible. Anyways, um, yeah, I think that's a very long answer to your
No,
question.
it's good. You're
Those are
good.
my examples of how to stand out and not be mundane.
You're good. And just so you know, I'm gonna flip that quote so everyone thinks you know who's playing Gambit in the X-Men. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I mean, I was actually gonna bring up, I was gonna bring up that Scarlett Johansson Channing Tatum interview because I saw like that caught like wildfire. A lot of those main publications, like, just trying to think, like the ones that I see on Twitter, it even reached like to like real mainstream news, but the ones that I see on Twitter for my like news, like discussing film and like screen time and culture crave and all those things, like I saw like a lot of quotes. I saw a lot of them gave you credit. I know a couple didn't, which is not fair, but that's kind of the way the news is, right?
Yeah, that's just the business. It's a common courtesy, and I will call out those who don't do it, and I will give praise to those who do.
There you go. I want to take it back to Syracuse. You are not the only successful graduate in the communications world from that school. I am a gigantic Boston Celtics fan, and Drew Carter is now the play-by-play for the Celtics. You were shaking your head there. Was that because I said successful?
Oh, well, no, I was shaking my head because, of course, I'm not the only successful
Oh,
person.
okay, okay.
I'm not even in the top 1,000. Good God, that place
Well,
produces
to
broadcast talent.
me, to me, the nerd industry is like top one. No, it's just saying. So, like, to me,
Oh,
it's like, you
okay,
know,
okay. I'll take it.
but you and Drew Carter comes to mind, right? Going to be the new Celtics play-by-play guy. He's great. How did your college experience at Syracuse and with Citrus TV like kind of shape you into wanting to do these kind of things?
Well, first off, Drew's my boy. He was a
Hmm.
senior when I was a freshman, and we never officially worked together, but we shared. Citrus TV was the college news station we both worked for, and so we would share the newsroom at times. He'd be on a sports show, I'd be on an entertainment show, and then he came back to visit in 2022, right before I graduated, and I bumped into him at a coffee shop, and we were just catching up, complimentary of each other's work. And I've seen him at a couple Celtics games because I'm a Boston native. Celtics are my team. So when he
Hmm.
got hired, I was like, no way. Like, and I told him over Christmas, I was like, all my uncles are gassing you up at Christmas Eve right now. I'm about to sound really cool when I show them. We took a picture back in like April of 2022, and yeah, he's great. And so yeah, he's one of many super successful Newhouse alums. Newhouse being the broadcast school at Syracuse, but it's really cool to be able to have like a personal connection to him. And that completely was not your question, and I forget what your question was.
No, you're okay. I was just, and I can kind of tie this in like another question I had. Like, I imagine like this time with Citrus TV and like Syracuse is what really made you think like, okay, this is what I want to do. Like being in front of the camera, being in the media space, like this is what I think my calling is. Like, was there a one moment that you can remember?
Yes, and that was that was when I auditioned for our entertainment show at Syracuse. It was called Unpeeled. Everything has an
Mm,
orange at Syracuse.
good name. Good name.
And that entire first semester of my freshman year, I was convinced like I'm going to be a sports guy. I'm going to be a sports guy. And that never really was my passion. Like I love the Sox. I love the Patriots. I was like mediocre following the Celtics, and I've never really cared for hockey, but never to a level that like I cared about movies. But for whatever reason, I just didn't see an end game, no pun intended,
No pun intended once
in
again.
the entertainment industry because there were so few people I saw that took like the college to like publication route and all that. And I didn't even think Citrus had a entertainment program. And when auditions came around, I auditioned for all the sports shows, and then the entertainment show on Peeled had such little interest that they needed people to audition
Mm,
just in hopes that they could fill spots. And so I auditioned because I was like, I would just want to be on camera, and I don't feel great about getting these sports auditions. And I did get a role. I was like the music beat reporter, so I covered music for this entertainment show the following semester. And that's when I just really fell in love with it. Like my entire childhood from like middle school on, I used to watch Collider Movie Talk like every day. I consumed so many of these press junket clips, and I always wanted to like. It sounds so like cheesy and nostalgic, but it's true. Like I always wanted to conduct a press junket interview. Always wanted to sit in the chair and be across from an actor and share my love of their work or just talk about their career. And I just never saw a clear path to that until Unpeeled at Citrus came along, and I was like, oh wow, like studio show in a full suit, reading off a teleprompter, talking about entertainment. This is great. And that
mhm.
just evolved from music to then I covered like the entire entertainment industry to then I started hosting that show. And it just snowballed and snowballed until I just had like this like giant catalog of content and experience. And I was like, well, yeah, I know I have a broadcast degree, so I know I'm going to go into broadcast. Entertainment's where I have the most fun. Why not just go all in on that?
I love it. Yeah. I went to Bryant University, so that's communications as well. But one of my favorite professors at Bryant, he went to Syracuse, and like I know the communications up there is like stellar, and like you said, so many like alumni from there. I saw that. I think you reposted it, Drew and his
Yeah, Jake
uh
Marsh.
yeah, they doing the PLL, like
Yeah, yeah.
unbelievable. It's
And
so
Jake
cool.
Jake just wrapped up like 5 years at Barstool or something. Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah,
That's wild. I have a couple more questions about like the workspace. So I saw that before back in the day on your personal YouTube channel. You have a video talking about the Percy Jackson new series and how the casting is perfect for it. That's one of your videos.
yeah.
And as a fan, casting is like the biggest piece of like news. It's always like there are some Twitter accounts that you know are fake and they're just trying to get clicks and it's about all these casting rumors. But then when the casting does come out, all the big media companies, like including Comic Book, are covering it. It's always like the biggest thing. So for someone like you, you're in the industry and you're a massive fan of these big franchises, and you also interact with cast members for your job. Besides just being able to read lines off a page, what makes an actor perfect for a role?
That that is a great question. Well, Chris Evans shout out, and also shout out you, Matthew, for good Lord, you do your research. I I forgot about that video. I forgot about my personal YouTube channel because it's been so long since I posted on it. Um, what makes a good casting? Walker is a really great example of this
Hmm.
because not even just because of like the connection with me covering that from like the very beginning stages. I've had the chance to meet him. We've had great conversations both on and off camera. And every time I talk with him, it is hard to distinguish where Walker begins and where Percy ends because he just like embodies the essence in
Hmm.
a way that like it really can't be taught. Some people are just born to play certain roles, and it goes so far beyond just looking like a character. The mannerisms, the energy, the way they think, their comedic timing is huge, even beyond just comedic timing, their conversational timing, how they talk to people. So you really have to look way beyond, like you said, just how someone reads lines off a page, because that anyone can read lines off a page, anyone can memorize dialogue, but to deliver in a way where it doesn't feel scripted, it feels like this is how this conversation would go is so crucial. And so, I'm by no means a casting director, so
Mm.
I'm sure they would give you a much more formulaic answer. But I feel like with a lot of actors and roles, it's a situation of when you know, and you really can't describe that. And it's hard to be on the reactionary side because we're not watching those audition tapes. So with someone like Walker getting cast as Percy, that was just like that was a vibe thing. That was like a good feeling based on his history of the connection I made in that video was the same way that Tom Holland was in a movie called In the Heart of the Sea with Chris Hemsworth, which allowed him to work with high profile stars before leading his own franchise. Walker was in a movie called The Adam Project opposite Ryan Reynolds and Mark
Mm.
Ruffalo and Jennifer Garner, which allowed him to work with these big stars and get that level of comfortability and confidence in himself much quicker than someone who is working on smaller indie projects for 10 years. Like being in a blockbuster that early in your career, even just a small part, is going to give you the confidence to lead your own high profile project pretty soon after. And so that was my type of analysis with it. But I'm sure if I was watching the thousands of audition tapes that we go through, I'm sure there would be like 3 or 4 people where you're like, I can't describe it, but you just feel right for this role.
Mm. And even shout out to Walker because like he had, shoes to fill with Dylan O'Brien, who did Logan Lerman. My
Logan
mistake. They're
Lerman.
like the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
people. My bad. They're like the same people in my brain. Logan Lerman, who did a really good job as Percy. I love those movies when I was a kid. So I imagine for Walker, he had big shoes to fill. So it's even more impressive. And I always see like Marvel, you can always go back and learn about like Marvel auditions. Like Tom Hiddleston, when he came in for Thor and he put all the stuff on and they were like, this guy's Loki. And it happens, I think Chadwick Boseman, he auditioned, the name is escaping me right now, for somebody else, and they're like, this is Black Panther.
It was
And you probably
Drax
know.
the Destroyer and Guardians. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
Isn't that wild?
that
Chadwick Boseman
is
and Dave Bautista's role. I cannot imagine that.
no, I can't. That's a wild one. Yeah, that's a wild one. I mean, casting directors, like when they know, they know. That's why they get paid the big bucks for that. Um, Honestly, that could be a good segue into a Marvel conversation if you want to get into that.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Big
All
day.
right. Yeah, big day today. It's been a bit busy month. Let's talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The cinematic universe that I imagine the first main big franchise that you really fell in love with and really got you into movies. It was the same with me. Growing up, like Marvel's such a big spectacle, and like there's superheroes, see them on the screen, they feel larger than life. Is there a hero, and it doesn't have to be your favorite, but is there a character like you saw yourself in when you were younger that made you like attach yourself to this universe?
Oh, anyone who knows me knows what I'm about to say. It's good old Captain America right there.
There we go.
I love Captain America, specifically the Steve Rogers iteration, but like I mean I love just the Captain America mantle. I love what they're doing right now with Sam Wilson. I loved the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I have it here somewhere. I read the Isaiah Bradley Captain America Truth graphic novel, which is really good. if you're a fan of comics, you should definitely check it out. It's a good like one-off story. And yeah, there's just something about Steve Rogers, the character, that the way he was introduced into the MCU and his character arc like ran parallel with my life in just the years I was
Mm-hmm.
going through. 2011, when he's introduced, I'm 11 years old. I'm between elementary school and middle school, and the world is all sunshine and rainbows. And I wanted like just, you know, like be the captain of the team and win
Mm-hmm.
games and all that. Very similar to how Captain America just wanted to be in the war and fight for his country and stuff like that. And then when Captain America Winter Soldier came out, I was in 8th grade. And that's when you start to like, I don't want to sound like too like jaded or like stormy and stuff like that, but like you start to see that there are problems in the world, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the good guys are the bad guys in disguise, and vice versa oftentimes. And that whole movie dealt with Cap and his like blind faith in the system being put to the test, and how he was still able to keep his morals at the top while also recognizing that some people got to get their due. And I love the line when he's like, you know, Shield Hydra, it all goes. Like sometimes you got to make those tough calls. And it just like these movies, Cap's arc was happening like as my adolescence was just like maturing and stuff like that. Same thing with Civil War, same thing with
Mm.
everything he goes through in Infinity War and Endgame. And yeah, I strive to embody the person Steve Rogers is. People who are surface level movie watchers will call him a Boy Scout. I challenge you to watch these movies through Captain America's eyes, and you will see that this is one of the most layered characters, not just in superheroes, but across cinema as a whole, that's ever been put to the screen. And I have major, major respect for Chris Evans, for how much he committed to it.
Yeah, I think it's a great answer. Very underrated character. It's funny, like I was reading about Chris Evans today. Actually, it's kind of weird, but I actually was reading about it. Like he didn't want to take on the role when he got offered. He had a conversation with Robert Downey Jr. and the rest is history. And you said it, so let's go get into it. Captain America: Brave New World, coming out next Valentine's Day, I believe, 2025. I think February 14th.
February 14th. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And look, I think it's safe to say that since Endgame, Marvel has been trying to work its way back up, like to the heights that it was at. But in my opinion, like I watched this trailer and I've been very locked in on Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's kind of been like my focus. But I watched this trailer and I was like, oh my goodness, like this feels very strong tone, feels very grounded. It seems like it's involving a lot of real world political issues into the plot. And I guess my question for you is what makes like a good grounded Marvel film far superior to something that's just trying to follow the Marvel formula?
Interesting. That's what the reason why I say that's so interesting is because I think the best Marvel grounded films follow the Marvel formula.
Okay.
I think sometimes they go hand in hand. And for Cap Brave New World, I love the trailer. I thought it brought, I mean, I have been burned too many times by Marvel in the post Endgame saga to
Mm,
trust that this movie will be good, especially after hearing how many reshoots it went through. The budget is through the roof. A lot of the CGI still needs to be cleaned up based on what we've seen, but the trailer looks good. And the story that they're teasing us, I appreciate a lot more than some of like the cosmic stuff, because I like to see myself in these movies. I like to immerse myself to a level of like, this is the world around me. It's why I loved Black Panther Wakanda Forever, went to Boston. That was one of the coolest moments I've ever had in a theater, because I was like, I drove down that road that they're fighting Namor's henchmen on to get to this theater. That's freaking awesome. I can't do that when we're on Xandar in the Guardians franchise, for as good as those
mm,
movies can be. So I appreciate when they go grounded for that level. And in terms of the MCU like formula, so to speak, and today is a good time to talk about it. It worked.
yes.
It worked for 11 years. They brought these directors in from obscurity. No one knew who James Gunn was outside of people who are diehard fans of Slither before he got plucked up by the MCU. No one knew who the Russo brothers were unless you were a fan of Community. Uh, Going beyond that, those are the two big names. Taika Waititi, of course, was kind of came from out of nowhere. A lot of people like Ragnarok. I'm not one of them, but I'm not going to pretend that like I speak for everyone. These directors come in and they are able to take their talents but work with like a Marvel playbook. It's no different than, a talented quarterback from a hidden system. Like when Josh Allen, like what college did he play for? It wasn't like a big school.
Wyoming.
Right, but like were they doing anything impressive
Oh,
that year?
I doubt it.
And he was
Yeah.
I just remember when going into the draft is a long-winded sports comparison, but
No, it's
like
okay.
his draft stock was low compared to some of these guys that were just playing for bigger schools. And I was like, why? He's a stud. He's like 6'5", 240, can move very well, and he's pretty fast as well. And he's got a cannon of an arm. And then you match him with the Bills system, and like they haven't won a Super Bowl yet, but they've gotten far deeper in the playoffs than they ever did with anyone else in the past couple decades. And I think
Mhm.
that's what happens with these directors who are working on smaller projects. They take them, they hand them the Marvel playbook, and it tends to make absolute magic. And when you let directors take too many of their own liberties, I think that's where you get some divisiveness. I did not love Multiverse of Madness, and I blame Sam Raimi for a lot of that. And some of these other films, man, freaking Quantum Mania, I
Oh,
thought I don't know what was up with that because Peyton Reed worked with the Marvel formula on the previous two Ant-Man movies. First one was great, second one was fine, and this last one was an absolute mess. So, the formula works, and I would love to know when Marvel stumbles, if it's because directors are not tapped in enough, or if they're too tapped in, or if there's like a happy medium somewhere. But either way, it's been a lot of positivity recently, and I think all that positivity comes back to the Marvel formula.
mm. That's a good take. I think what I meant was like when I look at some of the old Marvel movies, right? Like I look at Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a Marvel movie, but more importantly, I think it's a space opera, right? Ant-Man, it's a Marvel movie, but at its core, it's a heist film. And like Winter Soldier, Marvel movie, but it's like a war, like period piece, like type of thing. I think that's what I meant. Like in Brave New World feels like that. Like it feels like there's something like heavier there. And in addition, it's a part of the Marvel universe. Whereas I feel like in maybe some of the more recent movies of the phases, like you said, Quantumania, like you said, Multiverse of Madness, it didn't feel like there was something strong at their core. It just felt like we're following we're following the timeline because we have to get from here to here.
That's a really good point. Yeah, because like you mentioned, a lot of the post Infinity Saga films have not tapped into the
Mm,
genres that they should be in. That's yeah, I really like that analysis because yeah, what is the Marvels' genre? What is Ant-Man
right.
Quantumania genre? It's hard to distinguish. And the best ones, Guardians 3, Wakanda Forever, they're more identifiable. Like Wakanda Forever, I would consider, I wouldn't say fully a political thriller. It's a bit of a drama at times, but like there are clear themes. There are clear,
Hmm.
categories you could place it into. I don't even know what to call Quantum Mania. So it's a good
Oh,
point.
let's just call it garbage. No, I don't want to be. I don't want. That one just hurts because I was reading up on a lot of comics at that time, and I was so hype on Kang. And in my opinion, like he was portrayed well in that film, like the character of Kang. But the movie itself didn't go anywhere, and now it seems like I think this is a good segue. We can talk about the Russo brothers in the news today from Avengers 5 and Avengers Secret Wars that they're rumored to be the leaders in potentially directing. And then also there are some potential reports that Stephen McFeely and Christopher Marcus, who wrote Infinity War, Endgame, and Civil War, this is not as good of a source as the Hollywood Reporter that announced the Russo brothers, but there are some rumors that those guys are returning to write, which I think is just as important as getting the Russo brothers back. But oh god, I'm talking so much about Marvel, I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, it seems like they're pivoting away from Kang. Um, what you got? Any predictions? You think there are some other villains they can bring in? I think there's one. His initials are DD that they can maybe bring in for this Avengers 5, Avengers Secret Wars type of route. I just want to know your thoughts on that future phase of Marvel.
What's interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up, is I was thinking how it would be so strange to do a Doctor Doom if Doctor Doom isn't going to be introduced before, because we know the Fantastic Four movie Or
Hmm.
one takes place in like the 60s. Two, it takes place, I think, outside of the MCU. So like
Yeah.
another alternate universe that will probably get roped in Secret Wars. And for three, Galactus is going to be one of the main, if not the main villain. But I kind of suspect Galactus might be a situation where like similar to like Dormammu, like the ending villain, but not really like the main villain. Either way, I don't fully expect to see Doctor Doom and Fantastic Four. That makes me question, well, why would they just make him the Avengers 5 or Avengers 6 villain?
Hmm.
Because Loki was introduced in the first Thor movie, and then Thanos was obviously scattered in a bunch of movies before Infinity War. But then, like, Ultron just showed up in Age of Ultron and was the antagonist. So there's grounds for something like that to happen because it's happened before. I'm really bummed we're not going to get Kang because I hate when the real world it's so funny. I love having the MCU be the real world, right? I love seeing Boston and I love seeing New York and I love seeing all these places I'm familiar with, but I hate when the real world events impact these movies
Hmm.
because it just like it's going to be hard to just it was very hard to watch Loki season 2 and just be like, oh, that was always the ending. If the Jonathan Major stuff doesn't happen. So yeah, and I'm bummed mostly not even like I don't care like about what your take on Jonathan Majors is. Kang is just such a rich character. I just wish they
Hmm.
recast. Like if you can't work with him anymore, fine. But like I got my little Kang chess piece right here. I got it at Mile High Comics down in Denver because I was so excited for that character. Sure, I love Jonathan Majors' performance, but I thought so many people would have been great to replace him. I remember seeing people talking about Coleman Domingo or John
Yep.
Boyega or there's millions of Kang variants out there. It's the easiest recast of all time. So not going that route does bum me out a little bit, but something that does win me back over favor is having the Russos because they're 4 for 4. Like how
Hmm.
people on Twitter were being crazy today. The revisionist history against the Russos is insane.
Trying
Do you
to act like sorry, trying to act like Winter Soldier and trying to act like Civil War like aren't good. Like they're not very clearly standalone Marvel movies besides like Infinity War and Endgame. Like they're very clearly top 10 for everybody.
it's one thing to be like it's not as good as I remember. It's another thing to say that either any of those four movies are bad. That's
No.
insane. That is
Yeah.
the revisionist history goggles need to come off at that point because they didn't miss. Not only did they not miss, but they made really good movies. All four of those films are in my top 5. Why would you
Right.
not be excited about having the Russos back with Marvel?
I don't know. That's a question people got to answer. I'm excited for sure. And you had a tweet today that I actually like really agreed with, where for the solo movies, I think you said like take the risk, like give us like something unpredictable. But like for the, I guess I don't know how you worded it, like maybe like the Avengers ones or like the group movies, I guess you could
Yeah,
say,
the
like
Avengers movies. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, follow that formula because like Avengers 1, probably the greatest Marvel movie that everyone forgets about, the first Avengers. I think it's so good. Like not far off from Infinity War in my opinion. And then Ultron I think is underrated. Infinity War in my opinion is clearly one. And then Endgame has the greatest moment probably. So I agree with what you said today. Like for the solo ones, try something, and then but for the Avengers ones, stick to what you know. And you just said something. I want to ask you about this. Revisionist history. Like this is such a big thing. Like I feel like whenever I see a great movie or a great TV show, it gets its flowers, it gets its time in the spotlight. But then people on the internet decide like enough is enough, and now we have to pretend that we all hated this. Like Marvel, it's happening. Don't know if you watched The Bear, but I've seen with this new season, like people aren't as fond of it. So now people are going back and saying, oh, maybe it wasn't that good in the first place. But like with your experience in the film industry, like do you find yourself praising things more because you understand everything that goes into it? Or are you more critical because you know you have an audience and you want to give like a respectable, honest opinion?
That's a really good question. Well, it's hard not to give movie and TV its flowers because anything that ever gets made in Hollywood is a miracle. It
Right.
like I have yet to do a set visit, but I've watched plenty of set visit videos. These things, especially the Marvel movies we're talking about right now, each individual project employs like 3,000 people, like set designers, hair and makeup teams, not just individual people, like everyone that's just working on the production, manning the cameras, cleaning up the sets. Like these things are a miracle to just get made, let alone be good. So it's all, you always got to give a movie respect for just getting made and having people be employed. But for me, when I'm watching a movie and how I like dissect it, it really comes down to two things: emotion and stakes. If I feel an emotional connection to a movie, that's a huge plus. And if I feel like there's genuine stakes, every movie has stakes. So many Marvel movies for the longest time dealt with like the world's ending, the world's ending, the world's ending, and after like the eighth time, you don't feel that weight
Hmm.
as much. So that's why I really appreciate when like the Ant-Mans of the world are like, oh no, my daughter's life is at stake. That's it. But you really feel that because you feel like it's something you could genuinely lose in this movie. And so when those two things hit, it's really hard to like poke holes in anything else. I'm a very reactionary viewer. So like when I first see a movie, immediately I'm thinking of a lot of superlatives.
Hmm.
And if I'm rewatching it and dissecting it a little bit more, then I will poke holes in it. But for that reason, I try not to rewatch a lot of stuff because I feel like the first experience is the purest experience. There are certain movies that you need to rewatch because similar to like listening to an album the first time, you won't appreciate certain things until you hear it on a different day or with a new set of eyes. Remember that was Interstellar for me. I saw that in theaters in 2014, trying to be all pretentious and act like I knew what was going on. And I really didn't, and I didn't really appreciate it. And then I watched it for the second time ever last winter. And I was crying. I was like, this is the most beautiful piece of art of all time. Thank you, Christopher Nolan. And so there
The
are
goat.
moments you need to rewatch movies to appreciate them to the fullest. But I also think that, go with your gut, the same, whatever you tend to take out of a movie the first time you watch it, I feel like is how you truly feel about it. And after a while, you just kind of get oversaturated and you appreciate things less, and the things that bother you are heightened because the good things aren't there to drown them out as much. I feel like that happened a ton with Spider-Man No Way Home. Like that was an amazing theatrical experience, and then after a while people were like, yeah, well, this really didn't make sense, and this here and there, and it's like, yeah, okay, like if you want to poke holes in it, but like, did you have a good time?
Hmm.
What else matters,
Isn't that's the whole point, right? Uh, your first experience with Interstellar was mine with Tenet. I was watching Tenet and I was like, okay, I understand like on like a movie making like perspective, this is amazing, but like gun to your head, can you please tell me what happened? Like like seriously, at least for me, I gotta rewatch it. Um, but okay, I want to ask about these guys, the Fantastic Four.
Nice.
Okay, these are guys I've been reading a lot of their comics recently because I'm super pumped for the movie. We got Reed Richards as Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Joseph Quinn, Johnny Storm, and Ebon Moss-Bachrach, I think is how you say it. He's playing Ben Grimm, the Thing. Um, July next year is going to be an insane time because there's Fantastic Four, but there's also Superman, I think like 2 weeks prior. So, like, as a fan and as an employee, like, how do you predict that time is going to be for you?
It'll be chaotic, but also it'll be awesome because good Lord, we need box office hits.
Hmm.
Box office is struggling. The box office, I hate to say it, but it's on life support right now outside of the tentpole superhero films. Like these things are almost guaranteed money makers. And the Marvel branding is no longer what it used to be. The Marvels lost money after all. Quantum Mania was not the hit that they were expecting it to be. And obviously critics go a long way with that. Word of mouth goes a long way with that. If you make a good movie, it tends to make money. There are exceptions to that rule, but like, hot property plus good quality tends to equal money. And that's just a good time for all because when the industry is booming, it's just a lot more fun. Like, obviously, when Fantastic Four and Superman make money, that money's not going back into my pocket necessarily, but it means cooler press events. It means more press exposure. It just means a better time overall. Being behind the scenes at a lot of these things, when teams are winning, those being movie studios or those being wrestling companies, the vibes just tend to be a lot better
Hmm.
There's less panic about having, a successful opening weekend and more celebratory of like, oh no, we're just proud of this movie and we're confident it's going to do well and we're having a good time because of that confidence, as opposed to like, oh, it's a good movie, but geez, we're worried and now we're focusing on things we shouldn't need to focus on. So yeah, July will be fun, and that is on my radar of like that'll just be a busy couple of weeks, but in the best way possible.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so excited. Fantastic Four, like Marvel's first family, like I've been reading a lot about them. I think they could be portrayed in a really amazing way. And so it's next week, San Diego Comic-Con. Marvel's coming back to Hall H. They're gonna have their whole big, huge panel. And I know that led by Brandon Davis, Phase Zero, you guys are gonna have your own panel there, which is super cool. Comic book getting like so many flowers is amazing to see. Like, but in terms of Marvel, at San Diego Comic-Con, do you have any like crazy predictions or theories of what could possibly happen there?
Well, I do think we will get the Russos brought out on stage for an
Oh,
official 5 and 6 announcement. The timing of this news is too perfect. And also, it came from the Hollywood Reporter, which is like one of the only outlets that like if Marvel was planning to announce this, I feel like if any other place heard about it, you would be like, don't spoil it. But the fact that Hollywood Reporter, like, they're the biggest trade in the game. So, of course, if they hear something early, they're going to run with it. And they obviously didn't say anything about a Hall H, and they described it as very early talks, but things move quickly in Hollywood. And I feel like I can't name a specific example, but I remember reading casting rumors like weeks before they were confirmed at Hall H at Comic Con. So
hmm.
I think that will be the main thing. On along those lines, I think we will get an official Avengers 5 subtitle because right now it's not the Kang Dynasty. They've ditched
Right.
that. And like we said earlier, Kang is not going to be really factored in. So what that title could be. I know a lot of people are hoping for Avengers versus X-Men. I'm a little hesitant to that because I don't know how many X-Men projects we're going to get in between now and Avengers 5 because Avengers 5 is currently slated for 2026, which is only 2 years away.
Yeah,
So
it's coming up quick.
we will see what that's in store. But again, maybe Deadpool and Wolverine has a huge setup to that movie. Beyond that, I think, some good trailers, more Captain America footage. I think maybe a Giancarlo Esposito role confirmation, but the
Mm,
speculation is so hot right now. I feel like they might want to keep that going, especially since we still have so many months to go. Uh, and I think they'll announce a couple more projects, but I can't pinpoint exactly what those projects will be.
yeah, I think for me, I think the one thing that I think this is my prediction that I actually think has a good chance of happening is they will bring out the Fantastic Four cast on stage. I
Mm,
think Kirby, Pascal, Quinn, and Moss Bachrach, I think they'll be there. I know right now they're in London, but I think they'll be there. And then my bolder one is not casting, but I would love if they revealed what X-Men characters would be in the eventual X-Men live action, because a lot of the Fox X-Men that we're so used to, it doesn't involve a lot of the core X-Men, or it doesn't really put them on like a high pedestal. Like Iceman and Angel, like these guys were some of the originals, but in the Fox movies, like they're not on as big of a pedestal. So I think it'd be really interesting if they go with the original X-Men route, or if they just go completely with the characters from the Fox movies. And we don't need a cast yet because I don't even think they have that. But if we could at least know what characters would be in it, I think that would be like a super good tease. Because then comes the fan castings, like it would just spiral in all over Twitter.
yeah, that would be pretty cool. I definitely want to see more of. I really liked what they did with Iceman in the original X-Men movies, but like you said, he was very much a supporting role.
Mm,
Bobby Drake is such a fascinating arc in the comics, and there's been some cool Iceman runs on like animated fronts and all that, but never to the level that I feel like he's justified in live action. And the same thing with Angel. We got a little bit of Angel in The Last Stand and a little bit of Angel in Apocalypse, but not to the level that he could be portrayed. So that would be really neat. And I think that there's a decent chance something like that comes to fruition, just like a lineup of who we can expect.
mm. Yeah, Kevin Feige does it big. I mean, so I would not be surprised. And my last Marvel question for you, next week, it's been marketed like crazy. It's finally coming out. Deadpool and Wolverine. Liam, can Deadpool and Wolverine save the MCU?
Oh, that's the money question, isn't it?
And
Uh,
does it need saving?
yes, Marvel does need
Yeah.
saving,
Yeah.
regardless of what anyone wants to say on the internet of everything's fine. It's not. It's oversaturated. It makes money, but not to the level it used to. Marvel does need saving. I I will say such a politician answer, but I will say it has the opportunity to begin to make things right.
Okay.
I cannot definitively say that a good, let alone great, let alone near perfect Deadpool and Wolverine can erase 2 years of what I think is lower quality Marvel product. However, if it's that good, it's the only theatrical movie we're getting this year from Marvel. So
Which
it
is a
really
great decision.
yeah, it sets the tone for like the rest of the year, how people are viewing Marvel as a brand going into 2025. And that to me is a good sign because if you're putting all your chips in this one movie being your defining project of 2025, means you're pretty confident in it. So again, I cannot fully say this movie's great and I'm gonna leave the theater being like Marvel's back. But if this movie is great, I will leave the theater being like Marvel is starting to become appointment viewing again.
The
I
the
will
brick
say
is
though,
the
real
first
real
brick has
quick
been laid. Go ahead.
on that note, I still will not be first out the gate for Marvel projects that I think are completely unnecessary. No matter how good Deadpool and Wolverine is, it's not going to change any bit of care I have for Agatha all along.
Oh
The
my
two
goodness.
things are completely separate. Like
Oh my gosh.
some of the spin-offs are just unnecessary, and this is what kills the fandom. Because sure, you're gonna satisfy the diehard fans that want to see more of these characters, but my friends who used to be first in line for Marvel movies 3 times a year, when they see that you have 8 different shows in the span of 2 years and they're all 6 episodes long, that
Mhm.
makes them feel so overwhelmed that then they don't want to watch the ones that are actually good. So like the Agathas of the world, completely unnecessary. We don't need to do that. I think the reason it's coming out is because it was already shot before Bob Iger came along and kind of revamped Marvel and said we're reshooting Captain America: Brave New World. We're starting over a lot of Daredevil, Born Again. So those things aside, um, I don't even know what my final thought is on that. But the
No,
point is,
no. Yeah.
some Marvel is still unnecessary, and I hope it's all good, but I can't say I'm going to be excited for it all.
Yeah, because then at that point, it's just like you need to watch it to know what's going to happen for this movie, and then you got to watch this show to know for this movie. It becomes like a to-do list, and it's not like for
Yeah.
enjoyment. But um, I want do you have any cameo predictions for Deadpool and Wolverine? I have two. I have one that I genuinely think is going to happen, and then I have like my dream one.
I'm gonna say two. One, and both are gonna be because they're my guys. Channing Tatum as Gambit,
Yep.
because for the sake of that
Uh,
moment, I would love to have the payoff of like, toss him the card and we can splice that together when I get the HD clip, if it
mhm.
happens. And then secondly, because Sean Levy directed Ryan Reynolds in a movie called Free Guy, and Free Guy had a cameo of one Chris Evans. Chris Evans, Human Torch.
Yes, I was hoping you would say that. I was hoping you would say that. That would be amazing. That'd be amazing. I would love if they got the OG 2000, what year was that? 2005, 2007 Fantastic
First
Four?
one was '05. Second one was definitely '07.
Oh seven. Yeah, yeah. So mine is the one that I think will happen. I think we'll get a Hulk. I don't know if it'll be Bruce Banner before Smart Hulk, if it'll be Smart Hulk, or if it'll be Edward Norton's Hulk, if it'll be the Hulk from Ang Lee's movie. Probably not. I want a Hulk because the Hulk versus Wolverine aspect from the comics is something very popular. I think that'd be amazing. Like maybe if Hulk shows up and he like just wants to like kill Wolverine, but then Wolverine's like, "Listen, let's settle that later. Like we have a bigger fish to fry." And but then my dream one, I would love Team Red. So Deadpool, some form of Spider-Man, and then my favorite Marvel hero, Daredevil. If we could get that again, Charlie Cox, who's Daredevil Born Again's coming out next year. Maybe it could be sort of like a let's get fans excited again for that. I don't know. That seems bold. Having a Spider-Man at all seems bold, but it's Marvel. So if anyone's gonna do it, it could be them. Um,
Team Red, the only reason why I don't think it will happen is because it just might be too soon. I think it will happen eventually, but I don't know if they would do it in Deadpool versus Wolverine. I think there's a chance
yeah,
we could get a Team Red like movie.
I would love that, but I also kind of agree because the where Tom Holland Spider-Man is right now, it's like he's completely broken and has nobody. So I kind of like if you were just assuming when I say Spider-Man, if you were assuming Tom Holland, like I actually kind of like if it not him maybe because he's at a point now where he's going to start fresh with Spider-Man 4 and that seems like it's going to be more of a grounded story. So it might just not feel that like emotional. I won't have that emotional attachment if he just gets roped into Deadpool and Wolverine just for the sake of like the cameo. But I agree with that.
So would your Team Red in this case be like Tobey Maguire and Ben Affleck?
Listen, I think Charlie Cox is like his portrayal of Daredevil is one of the best. So, but I could see Ben Affleck because maybe they bring in Jennifer Garner's Elektra. So it's
That
like
that is happening.
that
That's
is happening, right?
they
Because
they've dismissed it, but that was reported a long time ago. Like by I believe it was Hollywood Reporter that said that she signed on.
and just a hint, if you go on Letterbox and you go on the cast, it'll say Jennifer Garner Elektra. So
Mhm.
Letterbox needs to not be revealing so much. But anyway, I wouldn't mind Ben Affleck, Charlie Cox. I was like my guy. But if I had to pick a non-Tom Holland Spider-Man, I'm going Andrew. But
Okay.
that's just me. That's a whole other can of worms I don't even want to get into. But so look, we've eclipsed the hour. We've just been, and I have so many more things. Like I have some Percy Jackson questions and WWE questions. I'm thinking maybe I could just ask you like like one from each one, and then we can get into the quiz because I really want to do that.
Sure. Yeah, we can do a part two one day as well. Like I'm happy to come back.
I would love that. I would love to. I would love to. I don't want to keep you here all night. I would love to get some more questions, especially when like these movies finally come out, and then it can give us like leeway to talk. But let's go to WWE. You said it's so special to you, and it's the thing that you really try to differentiate in your brain between like work and pleasure. So I want to ask, like, why is it so special to you?
I first started watching wrestling in 2011 because I couldn't find the channel that the World Series was on. It was, I want
Oh,
to say Rangers and Cardinals were the teams in 2011. And I was flipping through and I just couldn't find it. And I stumbled across USA Network and Monday Night Raw was on. And I had no idea what it was. I had seen kids with like WWE backpacks at school, but I didn't know like what the product was. And I was hooked immediately. Like it's such a core memory that I have, and I just became a weekly viewer since. And it's because it's a marriage of like my two favorite things, which are sports and entertainment. Like
hmm
the scriptedness of the storylines. Some of the storylines that go on in WWE rival movies. Genuinely, I diehard fans will tell you that, and people who don't know what it's about will tend to roll their eyes. But if you know, you know.
yeah,
There are storylines that have encompassed 10 years. Just this past April at WrestleMania, there was a callback to something that happened in 2014 that made narrative sense to how the main event of the 40th anniversary of WWE's biggest show
I
is.
love it.
Like that stuff you only get in like the Marvel movies when you have these moments of line callbacks and all that. And so yeah, wrestling has just always been something that's always been also just for me. I was a closeted wrestling fan for like 5, 6 years because all my friends thought it was stupid. And so I just pretended I didn't watch it. And I was like, no, I watch UFC. That's what's
Ah,
cool, right? And then after a while, I was just like, I don't care. And I started embracing the fandom. And then obviously it's like half my job now. So it's it will always have a very special place in my heart. And I will never not be a wrestling fan. I fall out of love with Marvel sometimes and with TV shows. I've never fallen out of love with Percy Jackson, but I definitely take breaks because
hmm
it's one franchise, so it's easy to take breaks in between seasons of the show or in between when books are coming out. But wrestling's on every week, and I will always watch. And even when it's bad, like I love keeping up with it. I'm fascinated with the sport. I'm fascinated with how matches are put together. Um, it's a really special medium of entertainment to me.
Are you gonna follow in the footsteps of your coworker Brandon Davis and get in the ring?
Yes. And that's all I'll say right now.
Wow. That could be a
That,
headline.
that's an exclusive right now.
That's an exclusive.
I've not told
That
anyone.
it's not going anywhere. It's safe in my hands. Um,
You can publish this, that's fine, but I'm not expanding upon just the answer is yes.
okay, that's so sick, dude. That's sick. Um, that was so cool. It made me lose my train of thought. Oh, yeah, I'm not a gigantic WWE fan, but like it was all over my timeline with the Cody finishes the story thing,
Yep.
and in a way, it really has made me want to check it out. So, hey, maybe I will. If I do, I'll let you know what I think because I have like vivid memories of watching it like when I was a kid, like just on the TV, like John Cena, like but and like Rey Mysterio and guys like the Undertaker or whatever. But like I'm not like expert by any means, you know. So I think it'd be a cool thing for me to dive into because I love just give me some more content. Like I'm just a content sheep. Like give me something, you know. You're the
If
content
you
machine, so you get it.
if you love cinematic universes and the interconnectedness of stuff, wrestling is made for you.
Mm. Love it, love it. Well, I'll let you know. Um, and then Percy Jackson, your other really big love. Have you ever heard the saying like men can't stop thinking about like the Roman Empire?
Yes.
I feel like another one is like men like always like to think about like Greek mythology. Like
Yeah.
it's just like so interesting. And a funny like story I have is during the COVID summer, I worked at a lemonade stand and 8 hour days just like sitting in the sun. And I just did not want to be on my phone all day. So I was like, let me try and do something I haven't done since 8th grade and read. So I went in my garage and the only books I could find were the Percy Jackson books. And I reread all of them that summer, and I was like, "Holy shit, these are so good!" Like, obviously, when I was a kid, like I love them, like those, like the Maze Runner. That's why I mixed up Dylan O'Brien and Logan Lerman, but like
Yeah.
those books were they hold up so well, and I want to ask like similar in like WWE, but like what is it about like the Greek mythology or the Percy Jackson universe that attracted you so hard?
Well, I love Greek mythology, so
Mm,
you're accurate in your saying of it is akin to can't stop thinking about the Roman Empire. Freaking love Greek mythology. It's awesome. It's the
like I'm
original
just
like it's the original storytelling, right? Like this
uh-huh.
is where fiction like fictitious, like larger than life characters were born from. So many the entire DC universe is inspired by like Greek mythology and Greek gods and stuff. So that's a big part. For two, the same way this is such a like an awesome this is a really cool podcast by the way you're making me like reminisce on my entire life in like the most beautiful way
Thanks,
um
man. Thank you.
wrestling is the thing that's been the most consistent form of entertainment in my life. It's spanned half my life. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is what got me into movies. 2008 Iron Man, I saw it in theaters. Percy Jackson is my first franchise. It was my,
Okay.
elementary school, 20 minutes of TV a day, nothing more, kid. Like that's how my parents were. And so I read a lot. And Percy Jackson was the first book series I read after like Goosebumps. I remember finishing a Goosebumps book for the first time, being like, oh my God, I read 100 pages. Look at me. So I
Summer
graduated,
reading is done.
right? Like you feel so accomplished. And so I graduated to doing some like bigger books, those being the Percy Jackson books. And I just like I fell in love with them. I read them so quickly. I remember The Last Olympian was the only of the original five that I read as it came out. Like The Last Olympian had not come out at the time of me reading the first four. And so then
Mhm.
I got it when it dropped in hardcover. And I just it's such a special place in my heart. I remember going to see The Lightning Thief opening night with one of my best friends and my mom. And I remember just going through the books when I was so young and falling in love with these characters and these stories and everything. And like you, honestly, it's funny you mentioned reading them or revisiting them during COVID. That was when they came back into my life, was over COVID, not wanting to just stare at screens all day. Like, oh, what can I read? I might be 19 years old, but my reading level is still probably that of an elementary schooler. Let me tap back into Percy Jackson because at least they're long.
Mhm.
And me and my friends, we read the first five again together. We then dove into the sequel series that does deal with like Roman mythology and stuff like that. And we loved those. And then I read Trials of Apollo, which is like the third series. Months or years later, I read those for the first time last year. And as we were reading these books again during COVID, that's when the series got announced. And I was like, oh my God, like this is the time to like get back into it. And so it all just kind of came like beautifully full circle. And Percy Jackson found its way back into my life right before the series got announced. So it felt just kind of like my calling to like make that my like beat, so to speak. And I'm very, very, very fortunate to have like a lot of, man, just amazing memories attached to that franchise as a whole.
And then look at you. You go to the show premiere, with all the cast, like it's amazing, man. It's so cool. So okay. I got like random questions, like just one-offs that don't really correlate to anything that we had talked about. Like
Yeah.
one of them, I wanted to ask you about this. Like I feel like it's just something that I feel like maybe no one has asked you. Like what has this job taught you about like having a good wardrobe and like getting ready to be on camera?
That's a great question. That no one has ever asked me about that. I have always put a lot of effort into my style. So that is not something that's necessarily been needed to be taught to me, but it has re-emphasized my desire to like look the part.
Hmm.
And throughout college, I had like one navy blue suit. I think I upgraded to like a couple H&M cheap suits that would tear the second you put them in the wash. And then when I started working premieres and junkets, that's when I leveled up a little bit, spent a little bit more money, went to Express, and I never like repeating the same suit. So I would always just and any new premiere, any new press junket, new suit, new suit, new suit. So
Love
fortunately,
it.
I only had like one every 2 months. Moving to New York City, if it becomes one every week, sorry, you might catch me repeating outfits because I'll be on a budget. But yeah, I'm very passionate about style, looking the part, dressing professionally, and where I put my own individual flavor into it is I always match. I'm a big sneakerhead. I love my Jordan 1s. I always match my Jordan 1s to the suits. Or the order will be I'll have a pair of Jordan 1s and then I'll go out and buy a suit that matches those colors. I have yet to buy a suit and then try to find the Jordans.
Hmm. Okay. That's cool. I mean, look like was it look good, feel good, ask questions good.
There
That's
we
that's how
go.
that's how it goes. Do you like these? My new shoes I just got.
Oh, there we
Big
go.
sneakerhead.
New
There you go.
Balances.
You like these? New
Yeah,
Balances.
I'm
Sh-
trying to think what those would match with because you got the green and
I
those are
got
kind
I
of
got I got
nice
some
colors,
like
low key.
yeah, I got some like green like pants that I got these green pants and I was like, I can't be rocking like the sneakers with these. Like the I need something for the shoe. So like my birthday is around the corner, so my girlfriend grabbed them for me. So
There you
shout
go.
out her. I'm not a big style guy. Like when I leave the house, like I'll be in slides. So it's like I've been trying to up the wardrobe a little bit. Like half my shirts are just like random like anime shirts. Like I've been trying to get into it,
That's
but
style though. You
yeah,
slap on a nice jacket with a nice graphic tee. It works.
there you go. What the kids call it? Drip? No, okay. I'm
Yeah.
losing my mind now. The okay. New York or Boston?
Oh, Boston. New
Oh,
York might
come
be
on.
my new home, but I'm a Boston boy at heart.
Boston boy. I love it. Okay. And then last question before we get into the quiz. I know I've kept you here a long time. I appreciate it. Um, Most anticipated movie of the year, not um or not including Deadpool and Wolverine. Like for the rest of the year. We're about halfway through now.
That's a really good question. And there are movies on my radar that I'm forgetting about, like movies that are like very interesting concepts. The one that comes to my mind immediately is, you know what I'll say? I was gonna say Gladiator 2, but that's kind of mainstream. I'll say Trap, the M. Night
Dude,
Shyamalan
that looks
movie.
so good. That comes
Uh,
out soon.
Dude, yeah, August, I think a couple weeks. That trailer was awesome. And
Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan actually, Knock at the Cabin was my very first red carpet premiere. So I have a little bit of a soft spot for M. Night Shyamalan. We had a nice conversation at the after party, and I just love that he finances his own movies. Like Hollywood doesn't want to roll the dice on him anymore, so he's like, screw
Mhm.
it. I'll take my own personal savings. I'll make a movie, and then one of you studios can buy it and distribute it. I love that. That's so punk rock.
Yeah. Yeah, that is sick. He's an amazing director. I pulled out my phone because I have like a list of 2024s which needs updating, but I mean Twisters comes out very soon.
Mhm.
Excited for that. Joker, Joker
Oh yeah.
2, that's coming out. For me though, it's Gladiator 2 and not I'm gonna stutter Nosferatu.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
That, and I'm not even like a horror guy, but that trailer, like the vibe that it set, it was like I'm already seated. Like the theater people told me like this doesn't come out, like you can't be here. Like I'm already seated. Like I'm already at the theater.
Big budget horror is really cool. And especially when it's like artsy horror. Like this feels
Hmm.
like a movie first and it happens to be scary. No, so let me change that. It feels like a film. Like this is like the
Mm,
way just the even the title card, the way it hit, the cast they got attached. That's a good show. Nosferatu is gonna be awesome.
yeah. 2024 is, I think 2023 is a little stronger, but maybe has some more top heavy, like with Oppenheimer leading the pack and everything. But 2024 is shaped up to be a pretty solid movie year. In 2025 and 2026 seem like we have a lot of good things to come. But all right, Liam, we're to the last segment. Again, you've been a trooper, man. You've been answering my questions. You've been such a great guest. I got a little quiz for you because I know you have a lot of passions. I've tried to explore the internet, figure out what you're passionate about. So I got some questions for you. In my opinion, this is probably going to be too easy. Like based on the
Okay,
way that you've been talking, but some of them are hard, some of them or whatever. You ready to go?
let's go. Let's do it.
Okay. So in The Winter Soldier in the MCU, what was Sam Wilson's past before he met Steve Rogers and became Falcon?
Oh, he was in the army.
Correct. Correct. He was a
Was
veteran.
was there
Yeah.
a specific branch that I'm missing?
It was Air Force.
Air Force. Well, I should have that's
No,
an
that counts.
easy,
That counts.
yeah.
That counts. All right, you're one for one. You're one for one. All right, The Departed. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
What what is Leonardo DiCaprio? What is his last line in the movie? I can describe the scene as well if you want a little description.
I know how he died. They're on the roof, and it's when he's like, "I got you, you effing rat." I want to say it's along the lines of calling Matt Damon a rat F word.
You when you wave the white flag, I'll tell you what it is.
Okay, I'm just gonna guess that he I know he punches him in the elevator and he goes like, "Shut the up." I'm gonna guess that's it.
Okay. So the punching is on the roof, right? And then they
Yeah.
go in the elevator. And he goes down the elevator. Matt Damon says, he finally cracks. He goes, "Just kill me." And he says, "I am killing you." And the elevator opens up. Yeah.
Shot
Yep.
in the head. Yeah.
Shot in the head.
Yeah, when
And
Matt Damon's all crying, he's like, "Just kill me, just kill
yep. Yep.
me."
And this next question ties into a bit. Which of these characters is the last to die in The Departed? Okay. So there's Martin Sheen. He plays Captain Quinnen. Leonardo DiCaprio. He plays Bill Costigan. James Badge Dale. He plays Berrigan. And Anthony Anderson, who plays Brown, who is the last to die.
Oh wait, I was waiting for you to say Matt Damon because
Because
I know
that's too easy.
that's
That's
the
too
ending
easy.
shot. Can you say them one more time? I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
So Martin Sheen, right? I bet you can visualize his
Yeah,
character in your head.
he falls off the roof. He's done. He's out.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Leonardo DiCaprio, right?
Of course.
James
Yeah.
Badge Dale, he's another cop, and Anthony Anderson, he's another cop. Those are the actors' names, and then Berrigan is James Badge Dale, and Brown is Anthony Anderson.
I'm gonna say DiCaprio's character.
No, incorrect. Incorrect. So the scene opens up. Um, James Badge Dale kills DiCaprio,
And then yeah.
and then Brown comes down the stairs, and Badgedale kills Brown, and then Matt Damon kills Badgedale because
All right.
Badgedale, his character was also on the inside, and he tells to Matt Damon, he's like, "It's you and me now. You understand?" And then Matt Damon's
Mm,
like, "No, it's just me." Takes him out.
I gotta rewatch The Departed. Yeah, I that's one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm blundering.
So good, but it's also one of those that like you might not have seen it in a while, but you can confidently say it's still one of your favorites because it just holds up, you know?
But yeah. I mean, also as a Boston guy, like how can I not?
Oh yeah. Come on. It's amazing. I love the culture. Oh, I love it. Okay. You said punk rock earlier. I know you're a punk rock guy. Finish this Kid Leroy lyric. This should be a layup. Like this is like Dwayne Wade to LeBron alley-oop, okay?
Yeah.
So there you go. Can't make a blank.
Wife out of a hoe. Oh.
Correct. I didn't say the oh. I should have said it. I'm like, is that an ad lib? Is it a lyric? Whatever. Good. Yeah, correct. That's a good one. Good one. All right. Next question. Okay, so you're 2 for 3. All right. Or you're two for, did you get either?
No, I
You,
missed on both
two for
departments.
four.
Two
Two
for
for
four.
four.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, honesty. Okay. 1917, the war film.
Yes.
This one is, if you actually get this, would be crazy, but I'm gonna give you multiple choice.
Okay.
Okay. So 1917 is shot and edited to appear as though the entire movie is one take. According to sources, how many actual cuts are there? Okay, I'll give you options.
Okay.
37, 17, 42, and 34. Again, this one is, I wouldn't be harsh on yourself if you don't get it because it's kind of like who would ever know this unless you've read the article. But
Well, I know in the movie there's only one. He falls, fade to black, open
mhm.
back up, and the
That's the
score,
obvious one. That's like,
the score that is playing. I love this movie so much. The score that's playing is a track called "The Night Window," composed by, I want to say, Thomas Newman did the 1917 score. I love that movie. It is. I think
great
it's the
movie.
greatest war movie ever made. Again, I am stalling because I don't know, and I'm going to take a
Wow.
guess. I'm going to say 34.
34 is correct. Wow. That
Huge.
is huge pull. We're just going to ignore the fact that you said it's the greatest war movie of all time because Saving Private Ryan is right there. But we'll keep moving. We'll keep moving. No, I do love 1917. I saw that with my dad.
It was
And I was,
also, and it was the last movie I saw in theaters before COVID hit. So for a long time, I was like, this
hmm.
might be the last movie I ever see in theaters. So it has extra sentimentality.
No, no. I didn't mean to harp on that take. It's a good take. Really good war movie. Do you prefer that or Dunkirk? Well, you said it's the best, so
1917, only because Dunkirk, I feel like, is a day in the life of war.
mm,
I can't name you a single character arc that happens in Dunkirk, but I can clearly identify the character arc of 1917.
okay. That makes, yeah, I respect that. I think they're pretty equivalent, but for different reasons, right? Like the arc in like a real movie, and then Dunkirk is like, here's what would happen if you were actually in war. And
Yeah.
but yeah, both great movies. All right, next one. Percy Jackson. Who created the labyrinth?
Oh, Daedalus?
Correct.
There we go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Percy
question for a
Jackson is
second.
a
I was like,
layup.
man, my knowledge is really gonna be put to the test if I miss this one.
Nah, I mean, yeah, that's a layup for you. All right. I got to bring out the timer for this one.
Okay.
You said you're a Boston guy.
Yes.
The Boston Celtics just won Banner 18. Okay,
Yes.
I'm a huge Celtics fan. Like I'm talking like Tuesday night, I'm watching the Celtics versus Pistons. Like I'm locked in.
Mhm.
I'm gonna give you 30 seconds. You gotta name me as many players on the roster as you can.
Current
Um,
roster.
current roster. Current roster. You don't have to include two-way guys. If like you don't have to include those guys that play G League and then come and sit on the bench in street clothes.
Mhm.
You ready? I'll give you a 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
O'Shea Brissett, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White. Oh my God, this is all, I'm questioning my fandom right now.
Point guard.
Oh my, not Derek White. He's not starting. Oh my
Well,
God, no, 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 don't say this. From the, of course you're not gonna say it. I'm on the clock. We got him and he was on the Bucks and his name is Drew Holiday.
the
Okay.
old man. One more
Freaking the
time.
Peyton Richard.
Well, you forgot Al Horford.
Oh damn.
Yeah. He's
Peyton
old.
Pritchard
He's
though?
Payne Pritchard. I'll give you that. You were technically at 32, but you know what? I'll give you that. I'm
Okay.
just O'Shea Brissett with the first. That's a snipe.
Well, that's because he's a Syracuse guy. Got to give him his flowers.
True. Syracuse guy. He also has a great YouTube channel. Um, but he most likely will not be back because he opted
You,
out.
we had math class together my sophomore year, and he sat in front of me in the auditorium, and he spent the entire lecture watching his own highlights.
If that's not the most like rock star thing I've ever heard
Right?
in my whole life, I don't know what is. And shout out O'Shea Brissett because that might have been, in my opinion, the last game he'll play. Don't know if we can pay him enough, but shout
Yeah.
out O'Shea Brissett. I wasn't even counting because I think you got like 7. So that's pretty good. 7 or 8. It's pretty good. That's
My
pretty
my
good.
my friends are gonna call me a fair weather fan for not knowing the whole roster. Because back in the day, man, I could name you the entire 2013 Red Sox team when I was 13. I
Yeah.
can't do it today though.
I think the only like major I mean, Al Horford And then Sam Hauser, I think, is the only other main rotation guy that you didn't get. But I mean, that's pretty solid. And like Xavier Tillman, but like,
I was about
it's
to say Semi Ojale, but I know he's long gone.
oh goodness, the Giannis stopper. Yeah, I don't even think he's in the league anymore. Okay. All right, let's get back to the MCU. All right.
Yeah.
What song plays in the final scene of Guardians of the Galaxy 3? The dance scene on Nowhere.
Yeah, I know it. It just has to come to me. Uh, Run fast for your mother, fast for your father. Dog Days Are Over by,
Correct.
by Florence and the Machine.
Correct.
Okay.
Dog days are over. So the Celtics one was just like, don't know how to score that. So far you're 5 for 7. You've only missed on the departed ones.
Okay.
All right, five more. Okay.
Awesome.
Who is the only other actor to portray Wolverine in live action?
Troy Sivan.
Great.
I
Good
saw
job.
that on Twitter today. That is so funny timing.
Good job. And I had this question down a couple days ago, so I didn't
Wow.
I had that in there.
That's awesome. X-Men Origins Wolverine, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
Troy Sivan. And it's crazy how like he's not really an actor, but his music career has completely taken off. It's crazy that he's the only other person besides Hugh Jackman to portray Wolverine in live action. There's been so many animated voices, but only
Yeah.
Troy Sivan. So crazy. Number 9, WWE. In what year did WWE adopt the name WWE? And if this is too like just guessing, I can give you options.
No, well, the options you give me are going to be the options that are going in my head right now. I
Mhm.
want to say, man, trying to think of the WrestleMania logos because it would be WWF. I
Can I give you a hint? Can I give you a hint?
okay.
It was before the Red Sox won in 2004. It was before they broke the curse of the Bambino.
Okay, I was gonna, is it 2003?
It's 2002.
Oh, damn. Okay, I was gonna guess 2003. But I remember the shirts because all the cameramen had "Get the F Out"
Mm.
WWF and all that. Okay, damn, that's a blunder on my part.
Nah, I mean, just picking. Nah, I would call that a blunder, man. I still consider you a pretty good WWE fan. All right, three more. Big Time Rush. This question, I'll give you a little background, okay?
Yeah.
I attended a trivia event at my school, and there were 15 questions. It was Nickelodeon, and everyone was 14 for 14. And then I was the only person to guess this question, and it got me an Xbox. Um, Crazy, right?
Oh my God.
I,
Okay.
I I walked up there and they're like, all right, you won. You could pick your prize. It's a backpack, it's lollipops, and it's an Xbox. And I'm like, oh gee, well, I need somewhere to put my books, right? Now give me the fucking Xbox S
Probably
series.
probably the one that's worth, quadruple
Yeah.
whatever, 8 times the backpack. Good Lord.
But yeah, this question, and it wasn't a guess. I actually like remembered the scene, but the question,
Yeah.
which member of the group named the band?
Well, okay. They all say it because it's the scene when they're like, it's this or Big Time Rush. And then they all stand up and go, Big Time Rush, Big Time Rush, Big Time Rush. I want to say Kendall.
It's Carlos.
Damn it.
So you feel free to go like confirm and email me and be like, dude, you were wrong. But
No, I
I,
believe you. You got an Xbox out of this.
I mean, there's a scene I feel like I remember where Carlos says like it's a big time rush, and they're all like, it's like when Miles Teller and Finn Forstick is like, say that again, like, yeah,
Okay. I see what you're saying. And I believe that to be true. My line of thinking was like when that phrase was then used directly as like, this is our name. But
okay,
I know, but technically when Kendall said Big Time Rush, that wasn't necessarily about the band. That was about like let's rush and do a big time rush. So yeah, damn.
okay. Little misinterpretation of the. I'm gonna give you a half point. All right, you're six
Okay,
point five out of 10.
I'll take the half point.
Two more. Perks of being a wallflower. I don't think it's specifically stated verbatim, but where does Charlie live?
Like what state?
I'll take state.
Okay.
I have city, but I'll take state because I don't think it's actually stated, but it's like assumed based on like the locations they talk about.
I want to say Michigan.
I have Pittsburgh, which would make Pennsylvania.
Okay, no, you're totally right there. I've never
Am I?
no, because now since you're saying I remember some landmark stuff, but yeah, I completely did not pick up on location when I was watching that movie.
Yeah, the novel is set in 1990 suburban area near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So
Okay,
maybe the book says it and the movie doesn't really highlight it, but yeah. So okay, our last question. You ready?
yeah, let's bring it home.
Okay. What is the best news outlet for all comic book and nerd content related things?
ComicBook.com.
ComicBook.com. Correct. Correct.
Boom.
Correct. You brought it home. You brought it home, Liam. I'm sorry. I know you. I know I blue balled you there. You were like, all right, this guy's gonna ask me who played the side character in Guardians 2. No, I had to do the generic bring it home question.
No, that's great. I feel better about myself because good Lord, some of my favorite movies, I need to rewatch them. It's been too long.
Well, I hope you do because all your favorites are great favorites. Like I love all like 1917, like great movie. Got to get back into Percy Jackson though. I will say that. I haven't read like I won't lie. I haven't read anything besides the originals. Like there's so many spin-offs or there's so many like extended books, right?
Not to get you like overwhelmed. Only focus if you're going to revisit it on the Heroes of Olympus sequel series. There's 5 books. They're all like 500 to 600 pages long, but they are awesome. And I won't say they're better than the Percy Jackson books, but there's definitely wider spanning lore, and it feels like the Avengers of Greek mythology. So I would highly recommend start with Lost Hero, see how you like it, and if you enjoy it, read Son of Neptune, and then if you get through Son of Neptune, then you're gonna finish the entire 5 book series.
Well, you sold me there. You sold me there. Liam Crowley, he has completed his marathon, I'll say marathon interview with me. Appreciate it like genuinely so much, dude. Like taking the time to sit here and talk to me on, yeah, I know you got a busy schedule. Like really appreciate it. Just want to close things out. What are your personal goals? What are your dreams going forward?
Great question. Wow. Well, the immediate future is a successful move to New York because it is intimidating. I
Mhm.
haven't done a move like that since college, and uprooting my life is a lot different than packing up for college. So, hoping for prosperity and good things and a smooth transition as possible going into the city. And goals closing out the year, probably to just continue to do the content that I enjoy most, and that being interviews and videos and anything that allows me to use my voice. And so I want to make sure I emphasize that. And then selfishly, my goal is to hit 200 pounds because I've been 190 for 2 years, and it's the plateau is frustrating. I'm trying to work my way up. If I'm gonna hit these mats, I gotta put on some weight.
I'll see you in the gym, Liam. Thank you so much for coming on my show. I seriously, seriously appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. And before we officially stop recording, I want to give
Mhm.
Matthew his flowers because good God, I've done plenty of podcast guest appearances. No one has been as thorough in their research as you, sir. That like you can give me all my flowers for like giving you time of day, but like I'm so happy to do a show with you because man, that a quiz with my specific interests in mind and all these questions too, personal YouTube channel, it was that Kid Leroy concert, like that is genuinely very thorough and impressive research. And if you are planning to go into the industry and interview actors and directors, you're gonna make people feel very special, and you're gonna make people remember you because I know how I feel right now, and I know I'm going to make sure people are listening to your show. So thank you again for an amazing interview.
Thank you. Thank you so much, man.